guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I was really nervous to make this episode, not necessarily because of the topic, but just because I feel like when I like to train or teach or I want to add value, I really like to approach it kind of from like the business sense of I have this topic that I want to, give a lecture on, or I want to like talk through, or I want to teach on, and these are the points that I want to talk about, and this is my experience, and this is what I want to leave people with. And this was one of the episodes, even though many of mine are just kind of like on the whim, this is one of these episodes where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm actually going to say, but I really want to share what my experience was this past weekend at a retreat that I went on in Canada. I just got back a couple of days ago. Getting back, let me tell you, a fucking clusterfuck. Was blind in one eye, was walking around like unable to function in the airport, got stuck in Washington, D.C. Like, we're not going to get into that piece, but I do actually want to talk to you all about this weekend and my experience and some of the takeaways that I had going into this weekend and also just leaving that retreat. So, many of you guys know, obviously, I run a business by the Blazer. And as a business owner, like many of you all, we invest in coaches and mindset mentors and just all these different people to help us expand and think differently and support the growth of our business. And even though I do that for a lot of people, I obviously need it for myself too. And so I have a couple different mentors that I work with. But one of them actually was hosting a retreat, both two mentors, one that I've met one time and one that I've been working with for about a year and a half. They were hosting a retreat this weekend, and I was actually not overly nervous to go initially. If you guys watched episode 2, I talked about like the kumbaya circle and I made a fucking joke about it. I basically was going for a VIP weekend, and it ended up being kind of this retreat style situation with a couple other of her clients, and it became a retreat from what was originally not going to be a retreat. Well, this actually was a retreat event. I paid to go. I was going with clients, non-clients, all these different individuals. And something about like the Wednesday before, because I basically flew out on a Thursday to get there by the retreat starting on Friday. Something about the Wednesday, I just got like extremely nervous. And I'm going to be very like totally transparent with you guys that one of the things that I think makes me very nervous is I am newer in like the business coaching consulting space than some of the people that I think I naturally compete against. One of them being my own coach. Her and I kind of have a luxury, elevated, promo style, marketing style, content style. And she is highly, highly elevated. Like, she is like Italian fucking Vogue. And I go a little bit more towards the like Marie Claire, kind of everyday, kind of chill style. But I get compared to her a lot. I also get just compared to a lot of different individuals out there, and some of them are going to be on this retreat. And I think by the time that I was getting close to the weekend, I was like, what do I want people to think about me? And how do I want to be perceived? Because when you go into a new experience, even if you know a couple people there, you kind of feel like you get like this new clean slate, especially because people saw me in like the online world, like they saw me through content. And I really wanted people to have a better impression of me in person than in content. So, as a typical woman with a stick up my asshole, I pretty much was like, okay, well, how do I want to be perceived? How do I want people to take me? How do I want, people to leave, with their impression of me this weekend? Like, what do I want that to look like? And I don't know what shifted in me when I finally was flying there, but I was like, I am going to be so fucking dumb if I don't just show up as my authentic self. Like, don't be stupid. And people are either going to like you or hate you, and it's going to be what it is. So I got over that a little bit quick, but that was kind of my first like hint at imposter syndrome this weekend. And then we basically got there, and just to give you guys a layout of kind of what the weekend looked like, we were at this like beautiful, beautiful kind of retreat style home. I guess you would call it a home, but there was like a waterfall and ice baths and a pool, and it was just like the most beautiful place ever. It was very calming, very like nurturing, like chill, spiritual vibes. Even though that's not necessarily the purpose, that's kind of what the venue was. And we got there, and I kind of immediately sent this underwhelming, overwhelming, like crazy. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I felt all these kind of like just feelings like bubbling up of I'm going to be put in a situation to be very vulnerable again. I'm going to have to be very authentic this weekend. I want people to really like me. I also feel like I really need this. Like, I just had so many things going through my head. And the actual weekend was centered around 3 different focuses. We focused on soul, strategy, and then synergy. And so when I was going to the weekend, I was like, all right, I just did this fucking kumbaya circle just 2 months ago. I'll be fine on the soul stuff. strategy stuff is my jam. So hopefully I'm good there. And I was synergy is like a mastermind day. I was like, wait a second, or we like got this. Like I got this. It's all gonna be fine. And I fucking did not got this. I was very uncomfortable day one, as I was 2 months ago when I did kind of similar exercises. And I kind of want to talk to you guys about why and what I now, as I'm like reflecting back on last week and kind of like what is coming up for me. But one of the things that was very difficult for me, I want to be very transparent that I am very good at like receiving feedback, or I'm better at it than I used to be, and giving feedback. Like if I like something that someone's doing, I'm going to tell you. I am that bitch that I see someone with a cute outfit like 20 blocks down and I will walk to them to tell them how cute they look. I'm the person that like gets to know every single Starbucks person at like my local Starbucks. Literally Mike and his 3 children, 2 of them are in Florida. One of them is literally 20 minutes away. Like I know his entire life. Okay. I could talk into entire episode about Mike at Starbucks. Even my assistant knows Mike at Starbucks. Like I am one of those people that I just give it when I feel it. However, being forced to give it and being forced to give it where it's not just like, let me tell you how cute you are, amazing content girl, or that kind of cutesy, like, hey girl vibe, I realized was very difficult for me, which was kind of actualization of, am I as authentic and genuine as I thought I am? Or am I just like a frigid fucking asshole bitch who only gives things in a way that like benefits me or makes me feel like good about myself? I'm still wrestling with that one. We'll get maybe attack that in another episode. But in the first day, we did a lot of like breath work. We did a lot of exercises, but one of the exercises that we had to do, we basically had to sit across someone. And again, this was day one of the retreat. So these bitches are strangers to me, strangers to me. Now, there's a couple girls that I was really excited to meet because I like kind of knew who they were. One of them I already feel like is gonna be one of my like best friends. I'm so excited. She knows who she is. And I basically was sitting across from people and we had to say what we were afraid of and what our fears were and just like things that were coming up for us. And I found it so difficult, not because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I was so ready, you guys. Again, Kumbaya Circle round 2, I was prepped. But there was something about like someone staring into your eyeball and you having to express how you were feeling where I became very like robotic. And I got very upset with myself because the person that I was talking to was like so open and so good and like crushed it. And I looked like a fucking pansy and I couldn't be like genuine in this situation, not because I didn't want to or I was afraid or I didn't want to be judged. I was like ready, you guys. I was like, bring it fucking on. I'm ready to bring it. But it was like a forced interaction. And that like I have to sit and actually be present with someone and like talk through things I struggled with. And so now I'm in my head the entire day of, why am I struggling with this? I feel like I'm so transparent. I'm so open. Like I'm an open book, blah, blah, blah. And that was really hard because again, the rest of the day, anytime someone would say something, I would like validate them. Or anytime someone was like talking about how scared they were to be here. I was talking to one girl and she's like, I was so nervous to be there. And I'm really like, you fucking amazing woman. Like you are so good. Like, what do you mean? And I kind of look at this thing in two ways. As one, I'm really scared to be overly vulnerable when it's like being forced on me. I am only comfortable if it's in my terms. That was takeaway number one, which George, who was there at the event, he will be like, yeah, bitch, we already know that about you. But the second thing that I kind of like take away in this is in a positive way is like I am a mentally like I'm a coach. I am a coach to my core. It's funny, by the blazer, we do kind of more like business consulting, or I pitch myself as a consultant mostly because I don't want to be put in the bucket of cutesy coach that's just like rah rah, good luck with business. But I actually this weekend left and I was like, damn, no, I am a coach. Like I am the consultant, I'm the strategist, I am like in the weeds of businesses, but I am a coach through and through. I am getting in the weeds with you. I'm getting into your fucking head. And the thing that I feel like I learned that day is I am the best mirror that my clients could ever hire. I am that person that can pull shit out of someone's brain and make them look at themselves and say like, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? And help them create an action plan and momentum in their business because of it. And so when I was in coaching zone where it was natural and it was on my terms, I was crushing it. But when it was forced to sit down and be silent and be in the moment, I was very uncomfortable. And so that was really, really hard. And then, of course, we go through, so that's soul day. We go through our strategy day. Strategy day, guys, I fucking crushed it. I left feeling like on top of the world. I was like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm so good with strategy. I felt like I added a lot of value that day. And when we were getting into day 3, at that point, I had some connections with people. I was starting to be a little bit more vulnerable. I felt like I was kind of getting into the weeds of things, right? Like I felt like I was like passing the test of like, okay, I did the stuff day 1, I wasn't so great. Day 2, I felt much better. We're going into day 3 and I'm freaking crushing it. However, as we all do, I also too felt like everyone was much better at the exercises than I was, which is kind of funny because I always had a lot of imposter syndrome and fear when I was like younger about like studying and being good at tests. I was the person who like went to every class. I passed, the tests by like studying hours and hours and hours. I always was very self-conscious about not being very smart. And so not doing well at the exercises, I was like, am I just freaking dumb? Like what's going on? But when we got to day 3, I kind of felt like everyone was just doing better that weekend than me. I don't know how to describe it. And so when we got to day 3, I just kind of had this like feeling of, well, like I've been really loud this weekend. I'm really good in the moment, but I'm not good during the exercises. I'm not sharing the way I'm supposed to. Like I haven't impacted anyone here. I just really was disappointed in myself by day 3, which is a really difficult feeling when you go and your number one goal isn't even to like have a good experience for yourself, but to like make everyone else feel good. And I didn't really feel like I had been seen for myself because I wasn't doing a good job of being authentic in these moments, not because I didn't want to. I just really struggled with like the forced interactions, which maybe is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. Again, I think there's a good side and a bad side to it. But on day 3, we had to do that exercise again, dear God, where we had to sit across from someone. However, this time it was not about us sharing our, fears or our worries or whatever kind of the day 1 was. But on day 3, we had to sit across from people and literally now a kumbaya. We moved from a kumbaya circle to a kumbaya line. So we were in this kumbaya line and we had to sit across from someone. And for 20 seconds, we had to tell them why we love them. And again, you guys, I did not know these people 2 days ago, which I'm going to be very honest. Again, if we were sitting at dinner and I was having a one-on-one conversation, I could tell a stranger why I love them, why I'm obsessed with them, why I want to be their best friend at any moment. But sitting next to someone, or not even next to, like across from someone, staring them in the eye and being told that if I don't pour into them the right way, that I have failed them, I did not do very well with that. So I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna suck at this. I'm gonna suck at this. And what we had to do is we had to do that to each person, and we had to rotate and we had to keep going. And then the last person, we had to do it for like a minute and a half. I'm like, this is so fucking hard. And what's so crazy is I was sitting there in so much fear about not being able to make someone feel like amazing. And then I also was processing the fact that the things that people were saying to me made me so overwhelmed with their kindness that I didn't even know how to then fucking regroup before I had to talk to the next person. So I want to give you guys a couple of examples of this, right? So I'm sitting across to someone, we're having a conversation, and like one of the first people that I talked to, she basically was like, you've changed my entire life this weekend. You have been so bold and loud and direct that it made me feel so safe. And I would not have had the same experience if you were not here. What do you fucking say to that? Like, that's insane. And then I go to the next person, and then the next person, someone I already knew, and she's like, you love so intently, like, you care so much about anyone else's experience. And like, I am just obsessed with the way that you make people feel so seen and heard. And I was like, what the, how, like, again, what am I supposed to say back to that? Like, how am I supposed to top that? Like, I'm competitive. I'm like, how do I top these bitches? Like, oh my God. And then the funniest person, oh my God, she was so fucking hilarious. She actually was coming from like out, I mean, she flew like 8 hours to get here. I cannot believe she came for this retreat. She flew all the way from New Zealand. And she literally grabs my head and she goes, you fucking terrify me. Which you think I would think is like a negative thing, but I actually for some reason was like, this is the nicest thing that this girl could say to me. But she's like, you actually terrify me. Like you are so direct and so open, and like thank you so much for like making me feel so safe this weekend. And basically the theme of everyone talking was like, you were so loud and bold that you made me feel safe. And it made me realize that as much as I was like, oh, maybe I'm just like not doing very well with these forced interactions because they're forced, I actually want to go back to my first original thought was I like to do shit on my own terms. And when I was forced to be in a situation where someone actually had to see me, Like, see me authentically, not in a moment, not in passing, not when I can control the narrative because I was bringing it to them and I wasn't willing to receive something back during the conversation. Like, I could not do it. And it made me think a lot about like imposter syndrome. I know that was one of the first things I said, but it made me think a lot about my clients and just women in general and people in my life who are navigating difficult times, or they're trying to build massive businesses and they're utilizing social media, or they're kind of, pulling back the curtain of their life right now. And it made me realize how many of you guys are so fucking afraid to be seen because you believe that you are only valuable if you can control the narrative and bring basically your best foot forward. Because transparently, and I think my friends would agree with me, I'm pretty like direct. I'm pretty like what you see was what you get. I'm a little goofy sometimes, I'm a little sassy sometimes, like, but I'm pretty fucking consistent in that realm. But the thing that I'm not very good at is like having someone like look at me and me being like, here I am, bitch. Only if it's on my terms am I good to do that. But when it's in that forced situation where I could not control how they were judging me or how they were perceiving me, I lost my fucking shit. And so when thinking about my clients, right, like we all want to put our best foot forward. We all want to be amazing. We all want to be perceived as brilliant and put together and successful. And we have, all the dots aligned. And like, we just care so much about that that I realized that the thing that people loved most about me was the fact that I wasn't very good at being in that comfortable zone because I talked about it all weekend. That I was like, I really struggle with this and this. And people are like, thank you. I'm struggling with this too. I feel seen because you are struggling to be seen. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I've been sitting and wrestling with this actually for a couple days. Part of the reason that we are recording this podcast actually like 5 days beyond when I got home. Well, when I was blind 3 days ago, I literally could not see. It was so bad. My eye was like bright red, could not see, could not even look at a light. So that was part of it. The other part of it is I was like, I need to figure out how to talk about this topic. And the third part of it is that my friends are living in massive fucking chaos and we had to reschedule filming this several times. So there's a couple different reasons we're recording this so late. But one of the reasons was the fact that I had to process this topic because I have had so many conversations with you guys, DM conversations. Some of you guys are my clients. If you're my clients, I fucking love you more than anyone. Don't tell the rest. But I've had so many conversations with you guys, especially business owners who are trying to open up online. You're trying to relate to your clients. You want to sell via your content, right? Like you guys know, that's like my whole thing. It's like, if you want to make more money from your content, if you want to sell from your content, if you want to create a piece of content, sign clients. And a lot of you guys are struggling to do that. And it's because you don't actually want to be seen. You want to put the lens of, the rose colored glass, whatever you want to call it, over yourself. And you only want to put your best foot forward. You only want people to hire you because you have your shit together. But guess what, bitch? You're in my DMs telling me that you can't figure out how to make amazing content, or that your sales calls aren't going well, or that your offer is not what you love anymore. But yeah, we're going out online and being like, we have all of our shit together because we think that that makes us less valuable if we're not, perfect, right? And I don't know about you guys, but some of the things that I love about my favorite creators and business owners and even my friends is when they're a little fucking vulnerable, right? Like, I mentioned it, I think in another episode, but one of like my favorite like memories of last year, my best friend Lauren was pregnant. And Lauren was like, is one of those people who like always has it together. Like she's just very good at a lot of the things she does. It's been interesting now that she's pregnant. I wouldn't say she has it all together, but she still has a lot together, right? But I will never forget when she was in the hospital the night before she was about to give birth to Nora. And, I was like, hey, I'm going to go. Obviously, I was not going to spend the night with her and her husband in the hospital room. That would have been weird. But I looked at her, I was like, I love you, goodbye. And she like looked at me and she's like, I'm so scared. I don't know if I've like ever loved her more in that moment than then. Cause I was just like, wow, like this is her in this like raw, vulnerable moment. I've never seen her like that. And I've had other friends who have gone through really difficult experiences that like I got to love them differently. I actually was listening to a podcast, The Skinny Confidential was talking about relationships. And they said one of the best things you can do in relationships is go do something out of your comfort zone with your spouse. Like if you are really not athletic, go like to the batting cages with your spouse or go like golfing with your spouse, because something about seeing people that you love in this like raw, kind of not perfect like state that actually like increases your like love of them, or like just it changes the way that you think about them in your relationship. And I was thinking about that this weekend, about how deep my connections were, because I admitted that I didn't have it all together. I talked about my failures, I talked about my fears. And again, maybe I struggled to do it in that like raw, like vulnerable moment. But also when we were talking and debriefing later, I was like, hey guys, I feel like I'm really good at this. And I'm very pissed off that I was so uncomfortable doing those things. And a lot of people are like, you were uncomfortable? I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that, because I thought I did a bad job. I'm like, no, bitch, you did amazing. I was the one failing. And it was so funny that we all were so afraid of like not passing the test of being good at all the exercises, or like I was laughing during the breathing exercise. I'm so sorry, Kate. Like all these things, when actually like that's what made people really like me, and that's what made me like everyone else. And I was talking to one of the girls there, who by the way is fucking incredible. And I don't know if people like to be shouted out on podcasts, so I try not to say people's names, but she closed her business down this summer. And she did it because she hit massive amounts of burnout. She basically like burned herself out. And she also had people around her basically being like, oh, don't worry. If you don't like your stuff, just like close it down, whatever. Crazy. And she was like, I'm so afraid to talk about that, because like people are going to think that I'm really bad at my job. Like if I'm a business coach, I can't talk about the fact that I burnt myself out and I burned my business down. And I was like, do you know how many people would feel so seen if you shared that? Because every fucking other message I get from someone is, I hate my business. I'm so exhausted. I want to burn it to the ground. I started this business for freedom, but yet I've never felt more like chained to something in my life. I've never felt less free. And I said, you have a story, you have a gift of a year ago when you started the business, you only knew the momentum. Now you've built the momentum, you've eliminated it, and you've built it back. And your perspective as a business coach is beyond anything more like than most people can ever talk about. Like you are beyond what you were last year. Even if you were making more money last year, even if you built more success last year, you are a better coach and a better mentor and a better leader now because you had that failure, aka an experience. I don't believe in failures unless you like actually just quit something, and you just had to walk away from something that you know you really want to do or were meant to do. It doesn't fucking exist. You're a better business coach because of that. And I'm a better business coach because I worked 8,000 hours in my first year. And it's funny, I don't talk about the fact that in my first year of business, I was taking sales calls from 8 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. on a Saturday to try to make enough money to quit my 9 to 5. Because I'm like, I don't want people to think that I'm going to make them a workaholic in their business when that's such a big part of my story. And two women at the end of the conference said, I want to hire you because damn, you're good. And damn, you're a hard worker. And I'm like, why don't I talk about that more? It's because we believe that like we want to be this amazing successful person, and we all end up just basically being like a carbon fucking copy of each other. And the thing that I'm finding very frustrating about the online space, and just honestly business in general and social media in general, is everyone these days is just like, look how amazing I am, and they're just trying to top each other. It's like, oh, I'm making 50K months. Oh no, now I make 100K months. Now I make two. It's just like so fucking stupid. No one cares. And then people are literally spending time buying fake softwares to get screenshots of their Stripe transactions to try to sign clients. It's actually so fucking insane how everyone's kind of on the same playing field because no one's authentic anymore. Now, I want to take that back a little bit because there are people that are, but it's not the majority. And so, if you want to stand out these days, if you want to be amazing, if you want to be the best of the best, you want to be the best business coach or the best leader or the best salesperson or the best whoever, mother or friend, you actually are going to win by like letting people see the raw and the ugly and the like the struggle. Whereas before, I think it was like, let me show you how amazing I am. I think now people want to feel seen, and no one feels seen these days because they're only being marketed to, they're only being talked to, they're only being communicated through like this lens of like perfectionism and having it all together and like high achievement and no struggle. And I think it's making people feel very disconnected from a lot of individuals and creators and business owners these days. So the reason that I want to talk about this wasn't necessarily just to recap my experience this weekend. I could probably do an entire podcast episode about it, but also I feel like it's one of those experiences that you kind of have to like be in. You can't necessarily recap it because you feel it more than you like experience it, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I just am going through all the emotions of the weekend, not necessarily being like, I learned this and I learned this and I learned this. But I wanted to talk about this because in a world where anyone can paint the bottom of their shoe red or go get a, screenshot and put it out and be like, look how much money I make or whatever, you are going to win by letting people actually see you. You are going to win by posting that TikTok with a pimple patch on your face. You are going to be a winner and a leader and the best of the best when you tell people that you shut your business out because of burnout. And now that you've done that, you understand what you could have done differently and you've learned so much. And now the people that are sitting there saying, I want to burn my business to the ground, you know how to lead them and inspire them and help them push through that differently than I could, who maybe has never done that. The things that have been your greatest downfalls or your failures or your just the scariest, heaviest moments of your life, it's the thing that no one can take away from you. Anyone can go buy the screenshots. Anyone can go buy the followers. Anyone can go do any of the shit. But the thing that no one can take away from you is you. The things that have made you stronger and smarter and better and have you made you cry and sit and eat tacos on a Friday night with your best friend because you've had a shit fucking day. That's the thing that I think is so beautiful. And that's what I think people crave. And so if you are sitting there saying, I feel like my business is not thriving right now and I'm so scared to show up authentically online, I'm telling you right now, that's actually the thing that's going to blow your business up. If you are sitting there saying, I don't feel like I have friends that really get me and understand me, go sit and talk politics with your friends on a Thursday night when all of your best friends think completely opposite of you. I promise it will be a really good experience. It will change you. Those are the things that make you so fucking incredible. And the thing that I really hate is people saying I have imposter syndrome because I need to be good enough, when actually imposter syndrome is just your sign that you're trying to compare yourself against someone that you can never be, because you were not meant to be that person. You were meant to be yourself. And I think that's the most beautiful and powerful and raw and authentic thing in the world. And if I have any major takeaway from this weekend, it has a lot less to do with the fact that I went to this retreat and I have friendships and we all struggle with things. And yeah, I could definitely go into that in a whole episode for sure. But we want to control the narrative of our life so much that we've lost the fact that the moments in between and the conversations and the little imperfections are actually what we should put on display. And so I really struggled to talk about this topic, mostly because I wanted to really help you guys understand how much I have been processing this, but also because I get that it's hard to show up. I get that it's hard to share who we are, what we struggled with. I get that there's fear around being seen. Obviously, I struggle with the same thing, even as someone who believes that I'm really transparent. But I also just want to encourage you that you don't have to go from 0 to 100 in a single day. I just encourage you to be a little more raw today. Maybe you don't curl your hair before you film that TikTok. Maybe you don't wash your hair like I did before you film a podcast episode that's going to go out to 8 different platforms and is going to be all over people's feeds, right? You just don't need to do everything perfectly. Lay your hair down, wear the pimple patch on the call. Tell your friends that you've been really struggling and let them in a little bit. Maybe talk about that feeling that you had last year that when you wanted to close your business down, or the fact that you went an entire month where your marketing was not working because you totally overcomplicated things. And then you had to get back to your amazing 4-step process that you have and everything came together. Maybe you don't need to pull back the entire curtain, but just see what happens when you actually show people who you are, when you aren't so afraid of if everything is so perfect. Maybe just try. Just try to let people see a little bit of what happens. And I think you'd be really surprised how much more people will love you and see you and actually sit across the room from you and say, I'm so obsessed with you because, and have them say something that you actually believe about yourself versus something that you've perfectly curated on an Instagram post, I think that's what I just hope you guys can be left with. And I really hope that inspires you guys maybe to change the way that you're showing up online in your relationships in person, because that's something that I'm definitely going to take away as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm really excited that I get to share this with you all, and I will see everyone next week.